The Bengals are officially eliminated from playoff contention, so what's next? Well, let's discuss the significance of Sunday's game against Cleveland, plus my biggest takeaway from 2023. Hi again, everyone, and welcome in to Enter the Jungle. I'm James Rapien, and this is Cincinnati Bengals Talk on YouTube, part of the Big Play Network as well. Excited to be with you for episode 2 of Enter the Jungle, and I'll be joined by Andrew Fox Miller coming up in just a bit. You're going to hear from Zac Taylor coming up, but let's start with this 2023 Bengals team. They're not going to the playoffs for the first time since 2020, eliminated in Kansas City. And the Chiefs lost 25-17, kind of pointed out all of their biggest flaws, from not being able to run the ball to not being able to stop the run to a defense that was overly reliant on forcing turnovers all season long and couldn't stop the big plays. And that's kind of the story of this Bengals team right now for a lot of people, but not for me, because given all of those flaws, a defense that was way too leaky, a defense that was turnover reliant, and let's be honest, it takes time in luck. You have to be right place, right time to get those turnovers in key moments, and they haven't done that over the past couple of weeks, outside of the one turnover they forced against Kansas City on Sunday. My takeaway is simple, and sometimes in life, the most obvious answer is the right one. 2023 is just going to go down as simply the year Joe Burrow injured his wrist. The year the Bengals shoulda, coulda, woulda made a playoff run for a third straight year, but didn't because they didn't have their star quarterback. And sure, I could point to DJ Reader getting injured. I could point to this defense struggling for most of the season. Cam Taylor-Britt missing a month of football. Chidobe Awuzie not getting back to his normal form for most of the season after coming off of a torn ACL. Young defensive backs with no Jesse Bates like Dax Hill and DJ Turner and Jordan Battle and Nick Scott not living up to the hype. We could go all over the map about things that hurt this defense. I could discuss the fact that this offensive line wasn't great run blocking for most of the year, or that Joe Mixon has struggled to put up explosive runs for a second straight season. Maybe the coaching staff should use Chase Brown more, use these guys more. Chase Brown might get mentioned more in a bit. All of these things, a lot of them are flaws or discussion points or offseason talking points. But it comes down to one: Joe Burrow. He's arguably the most important quarterback in the NFL, certainly most valuable for his team. I think there will be plenty of people that see this and say, well, the Browns overcame losing Deshaun Watson and all their quarterbacks. The Steelers overcame losing Kenny Pickett, and this is the year of the backup quarterback. That's fine. Jake Browning played well, exceeded my expectations, is 3-3 going into Sunday's season finale against the Browns, has played well enough and played well enough the other day to give the Bengals a 17-7 lead. But all of these games, wins, losses, Sunday, I'm sure we'll be reminded how important Joe Burrow is to the success of the Cincinnati Bengals. And that doesn't mean that they are nothing without Joe Burrow. I've been impressed with one thing specifically over these 6 games without him: their culture. They've stuck together. They haven't pointed fingers. The veterans didn't go AWOL. They didn't lose it. They didn't point to the offensive line, or the offensive line didn't point to the quarterback, or the quarterback didn't point to the receivers. No, they stayed together and they kept themselves in playoff contention for the majority of the season. When Joe Burrow went down on Thursday Night Football in Baltimore, if I had told you in that moment he's going to be out for the season, I'm not sure anyone thought that the Bengals would be in playoff contention, that they would have enjoyed another 3-game winning streak after Jake Browning took over, but they did. And that means Zac Taylor deserves credit for that. The veterans on this team deserve credit for that, including Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, both of which played through injury on Sunday against the Chiefs. Jamar, dealing with that shoulder injury, admits that he probably wouldn't have suited up had the season not been on the line.
That was the whole reason behind me playing today, just supporting my guys and, putting my body on the line just to help the team. And, I told Zach right before we got on the plane.
Testament to the locker room that, you and Jamar played through injuries today? testament to the team and the culture and all that kind
Yeah,
of stuff?
definitely a testament to the team, culture that we have here, that we built here. We play for one another. So it's one of those situations where, game time decision, do I want to go in and, help the team, try to help the team get a win. And, I made a decision to go back in. So.
And T. Higgins did that. Jamar Chase did that. Their presence was felt, even though their numbers weren't great on Sunday against the Chiefs. Both drew huge defensive pass interference penalties. One in Jamar Chase's circumstance led to a touchdown. T. Higgins got close to a touchdown. The Bengals failed on 4th and 1 after he drew that DPI. But that is a testament to the culture. And it's not just those guys. Orlando Brown Jr., playing his former team, after winning a Super Bowl with the Chiefs last year, went into Arrowhead Stadium and, well, he came up short, even though I thought he played well. And yet, even after a loss, Orlando Brown Jr. saying, yeah, he wants to be in Cincinnati.
What was like being on the other side of this one?
Yeah, man, awesome, man. Honestly, I wouldn't rather play for any other organization in this league. And, this is an organization, man, that's going to fight, that's got a ton of character, that's got a ton of will. And, man, I'm happy to be on this side of things. We came up short today, but as I said, man, that's football. It's a lot of ups and downs in this game, and that's the beauty of it. You live to fight another day, to fight another year.
Orlando Brown Jr. following the Bengals' loss to the Chiefs. This culture held up. It looked into the face of the most adversity you can face, which arguably is the most valuable quarterback in the league. And I think that's fair to say about Joe Burrow, how much he means to this franchise, this community, to what this team has done over the past couple of years. They lost him, and yet they were able to continue on and not just play out the string, but play at a high level, keep themselves in the playoff conversation. And heck, they had a shot against the Chiefs on the road, which is really all you can ask for, given where they were at injury-wise. 2023 is the year of Joe Burrow going down, but we did learn that the Bengals culture is rock solid. Up next, will the Bengals focus on developing young guys this week in the season finale against the Browns? Zac Taylor answers that question next on Enter the Jungle. Welcome back to Enter the Jungle. I'm James Rapien. We'll be joined by Andrew Fox Miller in just a second. But the Bengals trying to finish with a winning record on Sunday. It would be their third straight season with a winning record. They're 8-8 on the year. They play the Browns at Paycor Stadium at 1 o'clock Eastern time. Of course, we'll have you covered right here on Cincinnati Bengals Talk and every single week on Enter the Jungle. But Zac Taylor was asked about potentially playing some of these young guys this week, and he made it clear that his goal is to win.
We have a lot left to play for this week. It's our fans have supported us. We get a home game, chance to reward ourselves with a hard-fought win, find a way to get that done. Momentum, to finish the season, and some positivity that's there. And again, the fans that have continued to support us and cheered for this team and put their heart and soul into supporting us, get a chance to watch us, play hard in a home game and find a way to win. The number one thing for us is to win the game, and so whatever we got to do to win the game, our number one objective is to win this game by any means necessary. And however that looks is however it'll look.
However that looks is however it will look. Zac Taylor making it clear that the Bengals want to win to get to 9-8. And I think that there are going to be people that have mixed feelings about this for a number of reasons. Let's welcome in Andrew Fox Miller. What do you think about that? What's your instant reaction? Because I get it, coaches want to win. At the same time, there are a lot of young guys that could probably use the playing time.
Yeah, we want to see these sorts of things in preseason. This is an opportunity now that we've gotten through the season, perhaps to see, to your point, some of these younger players go out there and get some meaningful snaps. Speaking of meaningful, though, like in any other scenario, what is the meaning of having your starters out there? I mean, that's the question I'm asking anyone that is going into this week and expecting anything out of this game. I mean, you're playing all backups. What do you learn from it? If Jake Browning goes out there and has an incredible game, what's the takeaway? What's the meaning? You tell me. What do you think, James?
I think there isn't one when it comes to like Jake Browning. It's nice developing him more and getting him more snaps and live reps. So I would play Browning, for example. But T. Higgins, we just heard from him earlier in the show. We heard from Jamar Chase. Neither guy will be 100% this week.
Right.
Why play those guys? If you're T. Higgins, you're going into a contract offseason. That's it. It's been an injury-riddled season as is. The last thing you want to do is get more nicked up, even though you could boost your numbers a little bit. I think we know what he is as an NFL player. Not sure that's going to help his value any on the free agent market. Jamar Chase, you're eligible for a contract this offseason. And there are some marks he can get that we'll get to later in the show that he can hit. But is it worth risking? And from an organization standpoint, Tyler Boyd is in the final year of his contract. Sunday could be the last game for him in a Bengals uniform since being drafted in 2016. He's one of the all-time leaders yards-wise, receiving yards-wise, top 10 in Bengals history. And so not having him next year, that's a spot for maybe Charlie Jones, but he didn't even play an offensive snap against the Chiefs. And so that's what Sunday should be about for me, figuring out what you have in these young guys. Give Chase Brown 40 snaps so you see what he is. Give Charlie Jones significant amount of playing time. Give Andre Yosavash a significant amount of playing time. Young guys that you may be depending on next year, but you're still not totally sure about. I would play all of them. DJ Turner, Jordan Battle, as many young guys as possible.
And honestly, everyone that you just mentioned there as an example still give you a real shot at winning, again, against backup. For the most part, you're digging deep on the depth chart against this Cleveland team. So again, meaning I understand individual incentives, which we can talk about in a bit, but ultimately, so you add a win as, let's just say for a moment, as a fan of the Bengals, if you're a fan of the Bengals, they get above 500. What does that mean to you? To me, it means it's a bit of a vanity record, right? Because at the end of the day, we're not going to look back and remember that they were above 500 and how significant that was. It'll get lumped in with a large string of things, and it'll be, again, it's sort of a vanity thing. Not knocking Taylor. I know you play to win, like you said, but what does it mean beyond that?
It doesn't. And if you get players' honest opinion, it's not like the win at the end of the year carries over. Like if you give them truth serum, I've had players off the record tell me that it is not like that's, they can build the momentum. You know how many things happen in an offseason?
Oh,
like the momentum, this team is going to look a lot different. And we will certainly cover it all offseason long here on Enter the Jungle. But this idea that, you can build some momentum. No, not really. Now, do you want to send everybody home on a good note? Sure. I get that. I also remember after winning back-to-back games in 2020, they get absolutely crushed in the season finale to the Ravens. And what happened? They went to the Super Bowl the next year. They started well that 2021 season, even though Burrow was coming off of ACL surgery. So I would play the young guys. And to your point, it does give them a chance to win. One of the biggest failures, I think, of this final, I'll say 7 weeks, assuming they play to win and play Joe Mixon and Tyler Boyd and maybe Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, play all their normal starters. We still have questions about these young guys. We don't know. I think Chase Brown can help, but I don't know how much. He only had 15% of the offensive snaps the other day. Charlie Jones, I think he can help, but is he your future starting slot wide receiver? I don't know. We haven't seen a lot of him. Is Andre Yosavash good enough to take over for Trenton Irwin, at least, as your fourth receiver next year? I don't know. And that's the part that kind of stinks, is you didn't play enough of these young guys. Like Miles Murphy. I know Sam Hubbard's dealing with some injury issues, has been playing through it. He doesn't even need to suit up this week. Just get Miles Murphy in there, give him as many reps as possible, get Joseph Osai out there, and get those guys some meaningful snaps as you prepare for next season.
And to your point, maybe this brings us full circle. We talk about meaning of this game. Jamar Chase could go out and have a borderline or completely career game against this Cleveland team in week 18. And 6 months from now, we'll remember some highlight reel plays, some catches. Great. Charlie Jones busts out. We talk about momentum, right? 6 months from now, we'll remember that game going into the season. That's promise leading into 2024.
No doubt about that. And let's say the Bengals do play to win. Well, let's look at the Bengals draft position, where they could end up with a win or a loss to the Browns on Sunday. That's next, right here on Enter the Jungle. Will the Bengals play to win? Zac Taylor says so. They take on the Browns on Sunday at Paycor Stadium in the season finale, hoping to have a third straight winning record in winning season. Currently, they're 8-8. And Andrew, they're currently 16th in the 2024 NFL draft order, which is certainly much earlier than we're used to them drafting in recent years. If they win, they could fall as low as 18, so not super far. If they lose to the Browns and a few teams ahead of them win, they could move all the way up to 13th in the draft order, which top 13 pick, lucky number 13. I like the sound of that.
I do too. I difference between 13 and 18 can make a world of difference. Don't get me wrong. It to me though, that's an area where we talk about play to win, meaning of a game, so on and so forth. This is something a little bit more, tangible, let's call it, for the lack of a better word. But I also, call me crazy, I look at things like this and I go, let the chips fall where they may type situation. I don't want them to lose, even though I don't need them to fight so hard to win. It's a tough position to be in going into this game in that regard.
Well, I think you're spot on here. And this is what probably every fan can relate to in a positive look. Play the young guys, which we talked about earlier in the show. Play the young guys. And if they go out and win, well, then there's probably some promise. There's something to build on. There's certain guys that you could say, oh, well, maybe Charlie Jones is going to catch 70 passes next year out of the slot. Maybe Andre Yosevich can be a deep threat as maybe your fourth receiver, or platoon with another rookie if you lose T, or maybe you keep T. I don't know. But you want to get some answers for these young guys. So if you win and you drop to 18th because Chase Brown runs for $150 and is just explosive and is just crushing things, well, then great. If you win because DJ Turner has 3 interceptions or Dax Hill has a great game, then awesome. At the same time, do they need to risk Jamar Chase or risk T. Higgins or risk insert whatever lineman is dealing, like Alex Kappa? He returned, but he got nicked up last week. Do you need to risk guys like that could be dealing with injuries? I wouldn't. And that's where I'm at, because I agree with you. I think it's really hard to look at the draft. They may also lose and stay 16th, depending on who wins and who loses. So it's not like they can control where they're at exactly. So to me, play the young guys. They're not focused on the draft. I know that. The coaches certainly aren't. But playing the young guys is a philosophy. I think this is a valuable game for them. And it's a valuable game for Trey Hendrickson. Will Trey do something that no other Bengal has done? Find out what it could be and how he could do it next on Enter the Jungle. A few milestones that the Bengals can hit this Sunday if they do play their veterans. Let's start with Trey Hendrickson, who's tied for the league lead right now with 17 sacks. He's tied with TJ Watt. If Trey gets a sack, ends up leading the NFL in sacks, he will become the first Bengal to lead the NFL in sacks since the stat became official in 1982. I get playing Trey. I think holding Trey out will be very tough to do, Andrew, and hopefully he gets a couple of sacks on Sunday.
I mean, you're in the locker room, James. To the best of your knowledge, how much does this mean to Trey?
A ton.
Okay.
Oh my God. Trey pays attention to sacks. There was a half sack earlier in the year where he's like, no, that's a full sack. That's just me. And by the end of the game, it was his. But like, of course, that fuels him. It drives him, especially now that he could lead the league in sacks. He doesn't get the glory that some of these other pass rushers get, even though he's just as effective of a pass rusher to me. And so, yeah, I think it's very much on his mind. And that's probably the number one milestone of the week. And it would be Bengals history if he's able to do it.
You're going to have to draft up a new edition of your book, James, Enter the Jungle, if we get that stat.
That's right. Yeah, you're no doubt about it. He broke his record. It's obviously the Bengals single season record with 17 sacks. A few more milestones. Let's say Jamar Chase does play, even though he has the shoulder injury and the Bengals are eliminated. He's just 4 receptions away from 100 catches on the year. He would only be the third Bengal to do so, hit that mark, 100 receptions. TJ Hutchinson is the record holder. He had 112 receptions in 2007. Carl Pickens, second. In 1996, he had 100 receptions. And then Joe Mixon, and who knows what the future holds for Joe, if he'll be in Cincinnati or not next year, just 77 yards away from 1,000 rushing yards on the year and 146 yards away from James Brooks's mark of 6,447 yards, which is the second most in Bengals history. Corey Dillon is the Bengals all-time leading rushing yards leader with 8,061. So some marks that the Bengals could hit if they do play Chase and Mixon. To me, it would be the Yoshi Charlie Jones show. It would be the Chase Brown show. And it would also be the Trey Hendrickson show. I'd say, hey, Trey, go lead the NFL in sacks. That one's a little different.
Yeah. And, I don't want to get too deep into it because I haven't pulled up all the numbers. But regarding Mixon, doesn't he have some incentive financially if he scores a touchdown this week?
I think so. I think there are some incentives in that contract. So would not be
if Chase
shocked.
Brown has a wild week, though, you know what I mean? I just find that interesting, that whole dynamic. We've been pounding our fist, get Chase Brown out there, get Chase Brown out there. 1 week that Mixon could actually add some incentive, and then Chase Brown's out there for 90% of the snaps.
And that's why I would be shocked if that happened.
Yeah.
Zac Taylor is going to want to get his guys their due if there's incentives. Jamar Chase doesn't have any, but Trey Hendrickson lead the league in sacks. That's huge milestone if he can do it. And obviously Mixon as well. There could be some monetary value, but we will see on Sunday. We will certainly have you covered right here on Cincinnati Bengals Talk and every single week on Enter the Jungle. So for Andrew Fox Miller, I'm James Rapien. As always, thank you so much for watching.